Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality. While listening, you'll be exposed to inspiring, empowering, and unifying perspectives that I'm highly confident will yield stellar results in your life if you opt to try them on for size. Also, at optimistic.tv, we have officially begun releasing the first few episodes of our new late-night style, consciousness-elevating video variety talk show, Optimistic, which features live visionary art, soul share interviews, retreat guests here at the Mystic Manor, as well as live musical performances. I'm also super excited to announce that we are currently making plans to release the rest of Season 1 on my personal favorite online streaming service. So stay tuned to optimistic.tv to follow the unfolding development of this exciting Optimistic expansion, as we'll be posting more info and release dates there soon. And in the meantime, be sure to check out, of course, the first few episodes at optimistic.tv as well. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we grow again. It is a magical Monday here in the studio as I record, and super excited to be back with you guys. As always, for another moment in eternity to explore, share, grow, expand together. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk a little bit about trusting the universe, letting things happen. Talk a little bit about the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, which are a fascinating sort of divination methodology, a more recently created divination methodology, I guess you could say, and I think around 2012, 2009, looking here, 2009 is when the Gene Keys first came out, and it's all about embracing your higher purpose. It's Richard Rudd, who was actually on the podcast a while back, episode 722. If you go back in your app, however you listen to the show, you should be able to find it. Although with some of the apps, like Spotify, I think is one example, it doesn't go all the way back to the beginning. iTunes as well. So if you ever want to go back to the very beginning, you can go to positivehead.com, and every episode starting, I think someone posted in the Positive Heads Facebook group the other day that they had just checked out episode 1 and shared it for people to check out, and it's pretty cool to see the the beginning of this and where I was at and what I was thinking, and yeah, it's fun. I'd like to go back and actually listen to that sometime. But yeah, episode 722 is with the author of the Gene Keys, Richard Rudd, or the receiver, I guess you could say, because he shares the experience he had over 3 days where he got this massive opening, like full-blown, multi-dimensional experience where this information was downloaded as well as a bunch of other information. And then over decades, he put it together, and it's based off of the I Ching and human design. It's kind of like ties together some of these other methodologies. And the I Ching, what's really interesting, the Gene Keys are all about the higher purpose, the dormant potential in your genetic makeup. And it's, of course, based off astrology and when and where you're born and so forth. And what's great about the I Ching is 5,000 years plus ago it was created. And when we look at genetic code, it almost, there's like 64 gene keys. I believe it's 64. And then same with the I Ching and different sort of the bars in the I Ching, and I'm no expert on it by any means, but I know a little bit. And so what Richard found fascinating is that the I Ching actually almost perfectly matched up in some way with our genetics, our genes, and the way they're coded. So yeah, so it's sort of the evolution of the I Ching as well. And for the first time ever, and I've had the book for a long time. I mean, he was on the show years ago, episode 722, and I never really went down the rabbit hole of like looking at my path, or the golden path as he calls it. And so me and my partner Karen did that a little bit over the weekend, and of course there's some cool synchronicity with it I'll share in a minute. Also, let me throw out before I forget, episode 118 is actually a workshop from Lucidity that we played, Lucidity Festival that we played on the podcast early days, and it's someone giving a talk all about the gene keys that has studied it in depth. So those two episodes would certainly give you more insight. But it was so cool because we're looking at pulling up our charts, and you have this this pretty elaborate chart that has these different. It basically says look, in each of these nodes that make you up, there's a shadow component to the particular thing. There's a gift, which is sort of the evolution of that, and then there's a siddhi, which is like the ultimate expression when you sort of transcend and master this particular potentiality in your genetic code. And siddhi essentially is a Sanskrit word that means, translates as perfection, accomplishment, attainment. It's, achieving, some refer to them as like magical powers through yogic advancement and meditation, etc. So this is sort of the ultimate potential that you can unlock in yourself. So for me, just looking at my own chart, it was really cool to look at it for the first time in detail, because my life's work is the 31st gene key. So we looked it up, and it's the title of it is Sounding Your Truth, and it's all about using words. The shadow of it is arrogance, the gift of it is leadership, and the siddhi is humility. And I thought about reading it on this. If you guys maybe want me to, I could. It'd take 15 minutes or so. Maybe on another episode I could do that. If any of you would like to hear any of these, I certainly could read. But because it's super, super fascinating. Just seeing, wow, that definitely describes me, using words in the shadow. For example, in the 31st gene key, you would use it arrogance. You would use it words to manipulate people negatively, in a sense. When you, for your own benefit, when you evolve into the gift, you step into true leadership. You use that same ability to actually help people. So you're weaving words in a way that affect people and cause them to better themselves, which I like to think I've landed on the gift. That's certainly my aim in my heart. And of course, a big part of it is, it starts out the World Wide Web of Words as a title. Sounding Your Truth is the title of the entire section. And then when you get to leadership, it's heart branding. So learning how to sort of brand your heart. So pretty cool, right? And then, the humility, the siddhi for it is the ring of no return, which means essentially you begin to, because you have such a deep understanding of words and how they can, you can actually, code people and get people to react and manipulate, whether for good or bad. And ultimately it causes you to then start to really see, in a way that a lot of people don't, the oneness of everything. And then you start really living and acting from this perspective of oneness, and it starts to slowly dissolve your individual self, which then leads you to, the ring of no return, this humility piece where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a part of this thing that is so much bigger than just me. And, the same way he talks about, when I was reading this, like, matter doesn't ever resist anything. It just is, it's flowing with this huge force that is, reality. And it's sort of like the Bible verse I quote sometime, consider the lilies of the field, how they neither toil nor spin, right? They're not resisting anything. You realize, like, oh my gosh, humility has to come in, because this is so much larger than me from one perspective, and it's going to take me where it takes me. And it just, sort of this perspective of, life is happening. From one perspective, one truth, life is happening for me. And from another perspective, life is happening. And, you get into this where you just start to dissolve into it. So obviously this applies to all of us, right? And so I'm just sharing sort of this particular key. And obviously you guys will probably many of you will be intrigued, I'm sure, and want to go onto genekeys.com. You can actually get your chart for free, and it gives you some basic information. And then, like I have the book where I then went and read, kind of deeply into it. And then you can take, he has workshops online called The Golden Path. He might even have a discount code back on episode 722 if you listen to it. I don't recall. That's been years ago. But I bet you there is. And so me and Karen, my partner, were really getting into this the other day. And we're like, we should, I'm feeling really called. This information and reading the gene key itself and both of our main gene keys. And then you have all the other ones that go along with it. But we just started with our 2 life path ones. And we were just like so blown away by the power of the material. And, it's just like we had to read some things over because, it's just like so divinely, delivered. Richard is he's almost like to me, the modern day Alan Watts. If you hear any of his talks, like I played some of those too. If you search on positivehead.com, search Richard Rudd, you'll see some other talks he's given and things. And, he's just incredible, so inspired. Definitely, this is like channeled material. I believe. And so her and I were talking, and we were like, we should really, we should take the course so we can fully understand, everything about ourselves, right? And he calls it the Golden Path. Well, then later that evening, I had plans with some dear friends, and we had decided to hold space for some folks who were going to do psilocybin mushrooms for the first time. And I haven't really participated or used that plant medicine in a very long time, actually. I used to love them, psilocybin mushrooms years and years ago, which, by the way, they got legalized for medicinal purposes in, I think Oregon and Washington, D.C. Wow, what a big breakthrough. These substances that have been demonized in the past, but now we realize are the most powerful tool, one of the most powerful tools on the planet. They create new neural networks in the brain and just, a new brain cell growth when we thought you couldn't have new brain cell growth as an adult. So anyway, I had my journey with, using them a fair amount in my early 20s and just had kind of started to fall out of alignment, it felt like, with them. And however, this day we were going to, the same morning, we were researching all on the gene keys and the Golden Path and talking about signing up for that. Then my friends come over and we decide to hold space for them and some folks that were going to use them for the first time. And I decided to do some for the very first time, spontaneously. And it ended up being a really good experience. And that's one of the reasons I'd stopped it. It kind of shifted for me where it wasn't as good. And it felt like, I believe it was Terrence McKenna that said, if you get the message, hang up the phone when it comes to using substances. And I felt like that had happened for me with mushrooms. But I had a really, really powerful, wonderful experience for the first time in a very long time with that substance and that medicine. And then I hear my friend talking about these particular mushrooms. He's like, these particular mushrooms are called, there's all kinds of different ones with different effects, yada, yada. He's very knowledgeable on the stuff. And he goes, these particular ones are called the Golden Path. And so I'm on them, having just went deep down this gene key rabbit hole earlier that morning. And, what do you know? The Golden Path came in many forms. So yeah, I just I wanted to share so you guys could research it some yourself if you decide you want to look into this, and just the general premise of what my particular, life path gene key gets to is hey, ultimately humility must come in. You're going to learn, and as you see and feel the oneness of things more deeply, more profoundly in your journey, you're going to realize the only thing to do is this humility, this act of surrendering to whatever is happening, and that is humility, allowing it to take you. But it also is great relief when you can relax. Imagine you don't have to figure it all out anymore. Trusting, letting things happen. you're here to observe and experience and exert effort when it feels inspired to do so. But all this trying so hard and paddling upstream, as Abraham talks about, it just doesn't serve us anymore. The more we see, the more we understand, the more we realize what we're here to do is surf the waves and ride the stream and be more like the lilies of the field. They don't scream and fight when the thunderstorm comes. They don't resist the snow. They don't, they just roll with what's coming effortlessly and gracefully. And that is the golden path for all of us. And so what I'd like to do now, I'd like to take a few moments and actually share a pretty short clip, just under 5 minutes, of Esther Hicks, Abraham, talking about this topic. Trust the universe and let things happen was the title that I found this on YouTube. Let's take a quick listen.
Well, in that, I also realized that I visualized myself as a really fun person. But when you said, well, write down the things that you really enjoy or that feel fun to you, I was reaching. I'm going, wow. I couldn't figure out what they were. It took me a long time. So between that and relaxing, I lay in bed and do the breathing, and in fact, I've had 2 massages, and he said, I can feel your mind just going woo like this. And I'm like, I really want to relax. And I'm not. Is it because I'm trying to keep figuring things out?
It
and
is.
How do you let go of it?
Oh, you're excited about this, and that's all right. You just do it one thought at a time. That's why we give you this redundant story of letting go of the oars. It's just, Esther played with it in lots of different ways. She found that if she would sit and count her breathing, it would slow her mind down. She found if she would listen for a sound in a room, here she would listen for the sound of that air. And in the sound of the air, can you hear that sort of drumbeat that's behind it? Mm-hmm. So she would isolate in her mind some sound that she was picking out of her environment, and she would try to separate it from all the other sounds, which made her mind slow down. And then in time, once she began working with the computer equipment, she saw that little pause sign, the 2 little slashes that mean pause. And she would focus on it, and she would think, I'm going to put my brain on pause. And then she would think, I'm thinking about putting my brain on pause. But thinking about putting her brain on pause is far different than thinking about how to save the rainforest or thinking about how to solve someone's dilemma. In other words, so you're looking for less stimulating thoughts. That's all you're looking for. You're just looking for a way to give yourself a sensation of relief, and not always just at the time that you're looking for that. You're wanting to show yourself that you have the ability to focus. That's all it is. So you are very receptive to energy. Even the fact that you're receiving blocks of thought, you're receptive to energy, which means we imagine bookstores drive you pretty much insane. In other words, when you walk into an environment where there's a lot of energy and you're picking up on all of it, it can feel very chaotic, and you wouldn't feel any ease until you actually focus on something. Mm-hmm. And so the exercise of focusing your mind will stop that scattered sort of feeling. The exercise. There's someone now. the
Put them on pause.
The exercise of quieting your mind is only an exercise of focus. That's all it is, which sounds sort of opposite, doesn't it? Because it sounds like what we're saying is, don't think about anything. And then we say, and to quiet your mind, think about something. And what we're saying is, as you think about something, it quiets your mind from all of those other things that you're thinking about. Here's an example. Have you ever been moving about your day, and you're thinking of all kinds of things that you need to do or that you need to pick up at the grocery store, errands that you need to run, and they're sort of all buzzing around in your mind, and then you have the good sense to get a piece of paper and start writing them down.
I do that every day.
And as you write it down, it releases the chaos from your mind and puts it on the paper. It's sort of, but what it really is doing is causing you to focus. Then the majority of time, you forget to take the list with you. But when you're there, you remember everything on the list because you focused, you see. Focus is the key to feeling good because you are vibration, and focusing is tending to your vibration. And if you're not deliberately thinking thoughts, the thoughts that are buzzing around you will give you the sensation of thinking you. When you walk into a room of people who are thinking a lot of different things and you're not focused upon something, you don't have intentions of your own, but you're open to vibration, it can be a very chaotic experience for you, you see.
Well, why when I was deliberately thinking while I was having the massage, I am really relaxing, and I was doing deep breathing, and I wasn't getting there.
Well, again, you are getting there little by little.
I am?
You don't
Okay.
ask for a complete personality transplant overnight. And
How about a lobotomy?
You wouldn't
Would
like
that
it.
help?
You wouldn't like it.
It's not me. I couldn't create anything then.
You would, but you'd be starting way over.
Okay.
We want to go back to something that you said. But when you're trying hard to quiet your mind, and even struggling in that, that's that feeling of trying too hard. And so now you want to focus on something. Fine. So pretend that your bed that you are lying on is a foam cushion, and imagine that it is so absorbing that it is literally absorbing you into it. Or imagine that it is floating on a swimming pool and feel the flotation of it. In other words, find something to fixate on, and you'll discover that you can wind your mind down very, very quickly. And it's interesting because deliberate creation seems like focusing, and what we're wanting you to understand is that you've been focusing as you've been moving through the contrast of life. You know what you don't want, you know what you do want. You're focusing all the time. Now the work is quieting the mind so that you're stopping any resistant thoughts, so that you can then feel the impulse to move toward what's waiting for you in vibrational escrow.
Well, and I know all of that because that's what I've been studying. And that's why I said, can you give me specific things that I can do at home in my normal environment?
Not specific things, but specific attitudes. And this is the thing that we most want you to hear. And everything else that we've said here is much less important than this. And in fact, some of what we've said already here almost flies in the face of this. So listen and you'll see what we're getting at. You're doing fine. And there isn't something that you need to do that is so very different than what you're doing. And you understand what to do, and you're doing it more successfully every day. And for us to give you some sort of process that implies that you need improvement is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to convey to you here. So let's apply this upstream downstream exercise here. So you say, can you give me a process that will help me do better? Is that upstream or downstream? It is, isn't it? I have a hard time quieting my mind. Is that upstream or downstream? Something we said, you try too hard. Is that upstream or downstream?
Definitely
It is,
upstream.
isn't it? So now let's reach for some downstream statements. I'm happy to know what I know about the laws of the universe. Upstream or downstream?
Downstream.
Downstream. I'm not really applying them very well. Upstream. But I'm getting better at it. Downstream. Sometimes I suck at it. Upstream. Sometimes I'm really good at it. Downstream. I see these people over there who seem to be doing much better at it than I am. Upstream. I don't have to compare myself with anyone. Downstream. My inner being adores me right where I am. Downstream. I have nothing to prove to anyone. Downstream. I'm appreciative of everything that I've been living that has helped me queue up all of this wonderful stuff in vibrational escrow. I'm not moving toward the wonderful stuff in vibrational escrow. In other words, that's all it is, just thought by thought. Just try to let your thoughts move downstream. They naturally want to. That's what you want to be aware of. And don't make it a problem if they're upstream. We don't care if you make 100 upstream statements in a row. You know what that would do? If you were to get on an upstream rampage, you know what it would do? It would make you really, really want to go downstream. So you can't lose in this. In other words, all it does is make this, the more you paddle upstream, the stronger the downstream current is. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, so I have a big... Okay.
Oh, yeah, you do. So the minute you let go of the or, which is why you want to meditate or quiet your mind or appreciate,
Right.
that fast-moving current pulls you in the direction of what you want. Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Someone who trusts lets things happen. Seeking healing versus allowing wellness, right? She used that as an example. Like when we're striving too hard, it's like she's often said this, you don't need to even get your actions right. You just need to stop paddling upstream and let the current of life take you. The wellness is your birthright. That is the natural order and state of things. When you are done flailing and flopping around, resisting and, overthinking, you can learn to trust the stream, trust the mystery. Focus on letting go of the oars whenever you feel tension. I really, really like that piece of advice. Focus on letting go of the oars when you feel the tension. Like, I'm feeling tension. That's my cue to let go. That's my cue to surrender to the moment and making peace in that way with where you are. And, she said, if she could say one thing to us in not the nicest way, we all tried too hard. And we've all had those moments. I mean, I can think back even on my younger self, how much I tried to, try. And I still, my initials are try B. It's like, it's contradictory, right? To try to be. So you go from TRYBE to TRIBE. Now you're coming in communion and tribe with all of your fellow humans and animals and plants, and it's all a part of you. It's all your tribe instead of trying to be. I love that. Make it a practice to learn how to soothe yourself. And, her friend who said, what a great quote, there's nothing serious going on here. That's enlightenment. That's lightening up. There's nothing serious going on here. And ways you can soothe yourself. She went on in that clip, I didn't share it, but to talk about breathing and breathing techniques. And funny enough, that night when we took the golden path, that's the first thing my friend who was helping to lead the journey did was have us go through 5 rounds of breath work. It was what a way to set the tone when we first started, before the mushroom started to sort of kick in. And wow, breath work is so powerful. He used the Wim Hof app. He said you can download for free. That's someone I intend to actually have on the show, and it's WIMHOFF, I think is his last name. It's either 1 F or 2. But check that out if you guys want the Wim Hof breathing, free app, and go through and do that, 4 or 5 times. 5 times you really start to feel it. And what's interesting is when you hold your breath at first, he has you hold your breath for over 2 minutes at one point, multiple times throughout it. And at first, what was interesting, when I first started holding my breath, I found I would kind of panic in the first 10 seconds, 20 seconds. And then as I just relaxed into it, and he actually says in the app, let the body do what the body does, which goes right along with what we're talking about here today. And it was so funny. By 2.5 minutes in, when we were to release our breath, I was so much more calm and relaxed than 10 seconds in, right? So a lot of times it's getting past that barrier of flailing and reactivity that then the calm takes you over. And that I thought was a very, very interesting phenomenon that I witnessed in myself for the first time doing breath work that evening. So yeah, you are doing it. We are doing it. The ring of no return is coming for all of us, where the separation, the illusion of separation gets more and more flimsy, and you realize, oh my goodness, it's just all me, not just in theory, not just in concept. that's really me everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I'm there waiting for myself. Wow, I'm feeling that in a way I've never felt before. And it's so epic and ginormous who and what we are. And, I can take action when it feels inspired to take action, but then let it go and not be attached to any results, knowing that this is so much more than my vantage point, my limited vantage point in my human, right? And so that's the path to peace. There's nothing serious going on here. Make peace where you are. You are doing it. I am doing it. I love you all so, so much. I do have a song to leave you with today. This is Yaima, Yaima. Such an epic duo. The song is called Force. Until next time, journey well. Also, before we cue up today's song, I wanted to remind you about the game with the universe on our website, where you can choose the first number that comes to your mind and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time. And if you go to positivehead.com/universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and greatest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to spark the curiosity of friends and family by having them choose a number, so they'll hopefully go and check out their number as well, which I greatly appreciate because it helps us to spread the word about the podcast. Once again, the address is positivehead.com/universe. And as a quick reminder, if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them almost every day, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I cannot stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so. I have my favorite, the appleberry shake, at least 5 times a week. Once again, to learn more about the Purium transformation, go to positivehead.com/transformation. Or if you want to keep it simple and just try out my favorite, the appleberry shake, you can go straight over to ishoppurium.com and be sure to use code positivehead for 25% off. I'll spell that for you. It's ishoppurium.com. And be sure to use your Positive Head 25% coupon code.